We've been working on the story of Daniel's three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how Nebuchadnezzar had his soldiers throw these three friends into a furnace of blazing fire. Now, the account of Nebuchadnezzar, he's the king of Babylon, and he's a type of Satan, and his soldiers who are a type of Satan's army. And then we have Daniel's three friends who have been cast into a burning furnace, and they represent the remnant that's going to fight in God's army. This is prophetic of end times, when there will be a fierce battle between two armies. Now, the Hebrew text identifies the three friends as a remnant. It's very clear. I'll show you that. It identifies them as a remnant. And this remnant will be fighting under the leadership of the fourth man who emerges in the burning furnace. You can guess who that is. Let's go take a look again at this battle between the two armies in the end of time. So we have Nebuchadnezzar's mighty warriors, using the word Gibor to identify them as the remnant of Satan. Then we have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And now what's so interesting, if you go to read this in your Bible today, it's not going to use the word remnant. It calls them men. 8 times they are referred to as men. Men of Nebuchadnezzar, men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are referred to as men. But the word is not ish or some other Hebrew word that means a man. It's gibor. So wherever you see man, you have to read mighty warrior. That's what you have to read. And that, you don't get it unless you can see it in Hebrew, which I saw in Hebrew, which is why I'm teaching it, okay? So let's take a look at the story. I'm only going to give you some of it, but it says these men were tied up in their trousers. Well, men is these giborim, these mighty warriors of God, were tied up in their trousers, their coats, their caps, and their clothes, and were cast into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire. So you cross out men. And then we go to another passage here. These three men, they're not men, they're giborim, they're these mighty, mighty, mighty warriors of God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fell into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire, still tied up. Now, Nebuchadnezzar looks at this, and they're not being burned up. They're not being burned up. What's happening? So Nebuchadnezzar says, wait a minute, was it not 3 men we cast into the midst of the fire? Look, I see 4 men loosed, walking in the midst of the fire. I took out the italics, they've been added. Loosed, walking in the midst of the fire without harm. The fire is not doing anything to them. And the appearance of the fourth is like a son of gods. Gods, because he's a polytheistic believer and he has gods, okay? So we have to cross out men. It's not men. Was it not these 3 giborim, these very powerful warriors of God? And what about the fourth one? There's this fourth one, like a son of the gods. Well, that obviously is the Messiah coming into the prophetic story. So what you have is the Messiah, who obviously is the leader of the remnant army, of God's army. And then you have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who represent the remnant. Why are they the remnant? Because they trusted God. They believed in God. And they said, God will deliver us. We're not worried. And of course, even if they burned in the fire, they believed God. They're going to stand for God. They're not going to, cave in and not stand for God. Now, what's so interesting is that the furnace of blazing fire is prophetic of end times, because there will be a baptism by fire in the end times. And that's what we're going to do in the next session.